Let me pick up where we left off, but say it more simply. If truth is something alive, that means it must also have some kind of birth. It doesn't just drop into the world fully formed. It starts the moment a person encounters reality and tries to make sense of what they're seeing and feeling. Before truth becomes a doctrine or a tradition, it begins as experience passing through a human mind. And that process is messy. What we sense turns into perception. Perception turns into meaning. And that meaning becomes our first version of truth. But the first version is fragile. It's shaped by our memories, our culture, our language, and what we already expect to see. So we're not really seeing reality in its fullness. We're seeing it from our limited angle. That means the birth of truth in us is always partial, always needing growth. You can see this in many ancient traditions. In the Hebrew stories, for example, truth doesn't arrive as a complete system all at once. People live through events, crises, exile, restoration, and then try to understand what those events meant. First comes the experience, then the interpretation, and sometimes that interpretation has to be corrected later. Truth unfolds as life unfolds. This becomes even clearer when you realize that two people can witness the same event and walk away with totally different conclusions. That first understanding isn't the final word. It's just a starting point. It's the mind's first attempt to bring order to what just happened. Necessary, yes, but also vulnerable to mistake and blind spots. The Buddha talked about this in terms of misperception. He taught that part of human suffering comes from not seeing things clearly. Awakening, in that sense, isn't inventing a new truth, but learning to see what was already there more accurately. Truth isn't missing, it's just often covered over by our assumptions. Heraclitus noticed something similar. Reality is always changing, but our minds like to freeze things into fixed categories. We treat our first interpretations as if they were permanent truth, even though both we and the world kept moving. That's why humility is so important. Our first understanding is real, but it's not complete. The Taoist traditions says something close to this with the line that the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. In everyday terms, it means at the moment we put reality into words, we've already simplified it. Language helps us, but it never captures everything. So truth may begin in what we perceive and say, but it's always bigger than our explanation of it. That makes the birth of truth both necessary and risky. Without perception, we'd have no awareness at all. But if we never question that first impression, those impressions can harden into assumptions we never re-examine. Many traditions seem aware of this tension. That's why they pass down teachings and practices, not just to give answers, but to help each generation see more clearly than the last. Even in the teachings of Yeshua, the Hebrew rabbi from Galilee, many sayings come as parables that shake up how people usually see things. Familiar images, a seed, a field, a fish, a traveler, suddenly point to deeper meanings. The goal isn't just to give new rules, but to help people look at reality differently. When perception shifts, understanding is born in a new way. This also shows that perception is never neutral. It's shaped by the stories we inherit or that are forced on us and the communities we belong to. what we notice and what we ignore are influenced by those lenses. So the birth of truth is both personal and communal. We see reality ourselves, but we interpret it through the frameworks we've been given. The Upanishadic sages asked questions that go right to this point. Who is the one perceiving, and what actually is being perceived? Those questions suggest that truth is born in the meeting point between the observer and what is observed. The mind isn't just passively receiving truth, it is actively shaping how that truth first appears. That means interpretation carries responsibility. If our first perception can shape what we call truth, then mistakes in perception can lead to real harm. History shows this clearly. Misread events, misread text, misread identities have all solidified into rigid beliefs with serious consequences. So the birth of truth in the mind is not just intellectual, it's moral. Because of that, revision becomes essential. As we learn more or grow in awareness, we sometimes have to let go of earlier conclusions. That isn't betraying truth, it's actually being faithful to it. Refusing to revise an early interpretation is like freezing truth at the moment it was first born, never letting it mature. It reminds me of how children learn language. A child uses simple words for complex things, and over time, those words become more precise. The early words aren't wrong, they're just incomplete. In the same way, our first attempts to understand life are sincere, but they need refinement as our experience expands. That's why so many wisdom traditions include practices like meditation, reflection, study, and dialogue. Well, the ones that want you to wake up. The rest just want you to put money in the basket, kneel down, crucifix, put more money in the basket. But anyways, all of them are ways of checking how our understanding formed in the first place. They assume that truth begins in perception, but they also assume that perception needs constant tuning if it's going to grow closer to reality. Even then, complete agreement is rare. Two honest people can still see the same situation differently, simply because they are viewing it from different angles. That doesn't mean truth disappears. It can actually show us that truth is deeper than any single viewpoint. When held with humility, multiple perspectives can reveal more than one alone. So, I've come to see the birth of truth as a threshold. On one side is raw experience, on the other is the meaning we give to that experience. Crossing that threshold, the mind tries to make sense of what it has encountered. The effort is genuine, but always provisional. It needs testing, conversation, and openness to correction. In that way, truth is born again and again. Every time reality meets a human mind, some of those births are rushed, shaped by fear or bias. Others are more mature, shaped by patience and reflection. But all of them are part of the ongoing life of truth in human history. This deepens the earlier idea that truth is alive. If it lives, then within us begins in perception, each moment of awareness becoming a kind of birthplace. Our early understandings may be incomplete, but they're not imaginary. They come from real encounters with the world. Perception grounds us, interpretation guides us, and revision helps us grow. And through that cycle, truth keeps moving forward with us, inviting clearer vision and wiser responsibility.